Tama, buhay atenista, sa loob sa labas ng eskwela, ating ibibida lahat ng pera. Radyo, katipunan. Radyo, katipunan. Kawal ni Ignacio, katipunero sugo, todo sa kayod, punong at tulong. Blue Eagle, galing hiding at tigil, blue and white, one big fight. Radyo, katipunan. Radyo, katipunan.
Radyo, 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 katipunan. Radyo, katipunan. Radyo, katipunan. Radyo, radyo, katipunan. Radyo, katipunan. Voice of the Blue Eagle, kami di mapipigil sa pagbabalitang tumpak at katipunero sugod, todo sa kayod, dunong at tulog. Lipat na Blue Eagle, galing giting nagigil, blue and white, one big fight. Radyo, 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 katipunan. Radyo, 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 katipunan. Radyo, katipunan.
Radyo, 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 katipunan. Radyo, katipunan. Radyo, katipunan. Radyo, 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 katipunan. Radyo, katipunan. Voice of the Blue Eagle, kami di mapipigil sa pagbabalitang tumpak at tama. Buhay atenista, sa loob sa labas ng eskwela, ating ibibida lahat ng pera. Radyo, katipunan. Radyo, katipunan. Kawal ni Ignacio, katipunero sugo, todo sa kayod, punong at tulong. Lipat na Blue Eagle, galing hiding at tigil, blue and white, one big fight. Radyo, katipunan. Radyo, katipunan. Radyo, katipunan.
Let us understand mental health and explore how we can take care of our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. Welcome to your weekly slice of mental health tips and tidbits with Pat and B, here on MindEd.
Sa'yo sumisilong kapag ang puso ko'y pagod.
And hello everybody, welcome to MindEd, your weekly slice of mental health tips and tidbits. My name is V. I am just a letter. And my partner is on mute at the
Nakamute
moment.
pala ako, sorry. Hi, and my name is Pat. Welcome back to the show. Hello.
Okay.
Okay na ba? Okay na.
Okay na. Yes, we can be heard now. Sige, so, ano tawag dito? Diretso na ako. How are you, Pat? Oh, wait, sorry. Iba pala yung, ano ka dapat, yung question ko. How have you been present this week and last week?
I have been present in more ways than one. So, hindi nyo alam, guys. Pero nung nag-stranger si Labi, nandun pala ako. Ako yung parang yung disembodied voice speaking into the ears and to the screens of sila Jazz and sila B. I was feeding them, hindi naman talk points kasi kaya nyo naman eh. Gamay nyo na yun eh. Pero for the most part, I was just, listening in, trying to give as much input as I could so that they could have a more like holistic and meaningful conversation. But other than that, you know what? And sometimes you guys will have that. Despite having, contact with your core values for the year, sometimes you really just forget. And I think this was one of those weeks. Or these past couple of weeks are one of those where I just kind of had to go on autopilot again because there's just so much going on with regards to work stuff and fixing stuff around the house stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, in terms of, having time for myself, I made sure that I had time for myself because, of course, self-care and self-love is important. But also, syempre, I ensured that I had time for Cassie and my wife also. Actually, Valentine's Day, maybe that's one of the things that I felt really, parang one of the days out of the 14 days we've not seen each other that I felt most present. Kasi, so Chai and I took Cassie for the first time ever to a Valentine's date out of the house. So we went to this nice little bistro in BF. Shout out na lang siya. Hindi naman tayo sponsored or anything, but they deserve the shout out. So Bamba Bistro, thanks for having us. It was so nice because we were in this secluded area in the garden. And, we were having a really, really nice meal and we were talking about like our what we appreciated about the year and, reflecting on, the years of marriage that we've had. Years na, literal, as in more than one. So grabe. Nice. Good job, Patrick.
Good job.
And good job,
Good
Chai,
job, Patrick
of course.
and Chai.
Oo naman. Exactly. And also just, looking forward. So it was really, really nice. Ikaw, B, what have you cultivated over this past couple of... I know the updates on the Star Wars jigsaw puzzle. But
gosh.
I mean, apart from that, kumusta?
Yeah. Exciting things that I did this weeks. Ayan. Okay, so I have this like friends na nag-share kami ng mga like recipes or food ideas. And yan. And then sabi ko, sige, I made this kasi diba mahilig ako mag-experiment sa kitchen.
Kalabasa ba to? Hindi naman. Hindi na kalabasa.
Hindi na, iba-iba natin yan. Pero anyway, so yung mga ideas, so what I do, dati kasi I just type in like what I use the ingredients, how I do it, preference, options, alternatives, ganyan. And then I think this week lang, I took it up a notch. Nilayout ko siya with pictures. As in, it's a one-pager thing. I'll drop siguro some of them offline na. And then I just, parang, okay, I'm just gonna send you newsletters.
Okay.
Of like, maybe, I don't know,
Kala ko
weekly or
gagawa na ng
depende.
YouTube channel of your cooking.
No, I can't. I mean,
cultivate.
one of them said na parang iano ko daw siya, like gawa raw ako ng micro-content on TikTok. Pero no, I don't wanna pressure myself. Nagluluto na nga ako, magti-TikTok pa ako. Na, I'm too introverted for that. And also, these, parang newsletter content or yung mga recipes na to are really more for friends, for me and my friends to enjoy, and my family to enjoy. So, parang, I have no plans of making it like super, super big or public na magsasubscribe na ako to a newsletter service so that people can like, sige, you're free to share it, but I'm not gonna do it.
But it's one small project thing I think that you're really putting forward and committing to doing, at least for now. Like it doesn't have to be like a year-long full-blown commitment that you gotta do. But
Yeah.
I'm proud of you. That's good stuff.
Yeah, so I think yun lang. I
Mm.
guess yun lang. Kasi I got really excited about it. And
Mm.
again, I really find it therapeutic to work on
Yeah.
mga layouting and like checking every detail of like what I am doing. So I guess that's how I cultivated myself. And
Yeah.
I was also like exercising being present. Because I have to be mindful of what I am doing, taking pictures. Yeah. So parang habang nagluluto ako, take ako ng pictures with the layout in mind. Parang kung may layout
Extra
to,
awareness.
Explain to. Kaya,
Yeah.
yep. But yeah, and then some of the fire food that I made, I just sent them at home or to the friends nga. So yeah.
You glossed over the whole Valentine's.
Hindi kasi nag-catch up na kami kahapon.
Okay.
I was in JMM Radio last
with
night.
David Pomeranz? No, okay, joke lang.
No,
Okay.
it was Max's show. This one was with the dad of Max. We had him on the show, Sir Gino. So I was there at JMM, and then we talked about it. But Valentine's weekend, actually, I just spent it with my family. Parang nag-family date lang kami. Hindi ba na lang, nag-family date kami.
Nice. Outside?
With my parents. No, oh my God, we're so scared pa. Kaya, and then tsaka, kaka-booster lang ng parents. Eh. So parang kami na rin yung nagiging strict. No going out.
Okay.
Ganun na. As in, ang hirap talaga magpalaki. Ako yung guest natin, palaki nila yung parents ko. So parang ko nilaglag. So anyway, yun.
That's okay.
So that's the whole story.
Sabi ni Sir Boss Kirk Chester Damasco, pengin food daw. Pero sige, Kirk, share ko lang sa'yo, cooking mishaps. I chopped off like a small bit of my thumb yesterday cooking sweet potatoes for my child. So I don't think you'd want any of my food. It has blood. I'm joking. Hi, Kirk. Miss you, Kirk.
Kirk, we miss you.
Yeah. Sorry, for early listeners of this show or for people who tuned in like right at the start of the show, na-spoil na kayo. Alam niyo na kung sino guest namin. So, without any further ado, tatanungan lang din. Sir Gary, so one of the things that we did for this year. So, yeah. Thank you. Pa-big reveal na tayo, Just. Salamat. Sorry. One of the things that we initiated for this year was instead of thinking about what our big goals were for 2022, we thought more about like what is it that we want to have as a core value. Na parang it answers the question of if we fast forwarded to the end of this year, what would be the ideal answer to the question of what kind of person was I this year? And so for me, the answer at the beginning of the year was I want to be the kind of person who is more present with or more attentive and attuned to the people I love, the people around me, and also the people I work with. For B, it was about being more. It was more about cultivating and nourishing herself, but also committing to actually putting the plans, all of the big creative projects she had in her head, to actual fruition. So that's the first question for you today. It has nothing to do with peer counseling, or it could, but we'll figure that out later. But what's your core value for 2022?
Well, I guess the more I adhere to the mission that I've been called to, because I went on a retreat last year about July, and so I had to revisit what I was called for, and that is to be of service. So that has been my mission for the past B knows this, that I came from a religious community and then moved to actually the academe. And it's not where you spend it, but it's how you spend it, your life now. And it's on a mission. Now the mission has not really changed, and that is to be of service to other people. So from a religious standpoint to a more psychosocial, psycho-spiritual standpoint, you can put it that way too. And thus for this year, because I'm involved with guidance, I'm also involved with sparingly though with Center for Ignatian Spirituality. It's a mixture of both. So to be of
Yeah.
greater service this year.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So, parang to answer that question, or if we had fast forwarded to the end of this year, you would have ideally answered the question by saying, "I was of greater service this year." That's amazing.
Yeah. So yeah, that's been the question every time. If you start to have doubts whether you're in the right place or not,
Mm,
you start to go back to your mission statement as to what it
exactly.
is.
Yeah.
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 And then you recalibrate
Yeah.
and then move on from there.
Yeah. So yung second commitment namin to each to for this year is not just about being mindful of what the core value is, but also making sure that we build small habits, or make sure that we are committing to pursuing that value week on week, or at least whenever it is that we catch up with each other. So even if we're not doing the show, we kind of still ask or catch up on each other. Parang, oh, here's an update on my puzzle. So our question for you, second question, Sir Gary, is
Okay.
how have you been of greater service this past week?
Oh, past
Kahit this
week.
past week lang.
Past week.
Or month, pwede naman.
Pwede. Past week siguro is going beyond myself. Like there are times that you feel that you'd like to hold it. Wait. Am I really meant for this or something like that? But to push on in spite of the difficulties, to push on in spite of the obstacles, to push on and fulfill, as I mentioned earlier, the calling that I had. And
Mhm.
so that is a daily grind. That is a, and I admire what you do. No, you check on each other. What are the values? Where are you at? And so, because in that kind of struggle, you do need someone to reflect back to you how that person sees you more objectively. And so you just don't fool yourself. Oh, I've done this and I've done that. But
Right.
how do others see it? Do they see it the same way you do? So
Yeah.
that's so it's always good to get feedback. And for me, based on just my own judgment, I never asked anyone until you did. Okay. Uh, yeah, I guess those are crucial decisions to just move on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially
Yeah.
in this time.
So true. Yeah. Okay. Well, guys, it's always a delight, especially for B and I, to have Sir Gary on the show, whether it's just shooting the breeze or whatever. But today's episode is actually about something very, very specific. So, B, can you tell us more about what we're focusing on today?
Yeah, actually wala naman tayo masyadong, hindi tayo nakakapag-segue ngayon ng maayos eh. But we
Yun na
really
yun.
want to, yun na nga yun eh.
Okay.
We want to focus on maybe one of the programs or one of the initiatives also of the Office of Guidance Counseling. And of course, siguro sa atin rin, like intentionally, we're also advocating for this one. It's peer counseling. So, siguro for some it's a new word, it's a new term, or yung sa iba parang narinig na nila pero not really sure, and then others maybe are already doing it but not really sure that it's called peer counseling. So maybe let's go back to the basics, Sir Gary. Can you let us maybe first define what peer counseling is, and how is it different from like the counseling that Patrick does or you guys do in the Office of the Guidance and Counseling?
Okay, so peer counseling is more, for lack of better terms, more layman, non-technical. But let me just try to explain this in the context of the law, of the mental health law. And prior to getting into psychology, my mentor was actually my tormentor then, was trying to tell me that, when you say counseling, where we're already about to get into the mental health law, you need to look at it from a professional standpoint. You cannot just use counseling
Loosely.
so casually. It has to be with a license, with an educational background and all that, a practice. So peer counseling before was known as a tool for peers, for people in the same company, in the same school, in the same environment. And we try to establish that. As I earlier mentioned, that I was in community, and we try to put it in, but in a sense, with a long-term idea that eventually there will have to be someone who will oversee how things are going on, and that would be a professional.
Yeah.
And that was the reason also I got into my MA for counseling psychology. That was the purpose, to actually prepare for that eventual transition from just mere groups wherein you just have sharing and all that, to a more, let's say, therapeutic orientation.
Yeah.
Now, we cannot use counseling loosely nowadays, because counseling would definitely need a license. Okay, so whether
Yeah.
it's peer so we actually refrain from using peer counseling. It's more of a discussion leader. Even the
Mhm.
word facilitator is also associated with a license. So
Mhm.
differentiating what you earlier mentioned as peer counseling from more layman's terms to more professional terms, like myself and Patrick, then we do have licenses. We went through certain courses. We had to graduate and, of course, pass the board exams and be qualified to do professional counseling. Now, um, but the spirit of peer counseling is what we try to do in the peer support groups that we're trying to establish for the Loyola schools, because it's not counseling; it's more like a support group. And
Yeah.
all these years, my experience with community has always been the small cell groups.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 20 years ako doon eh. So, and I know what it is, how it can create a support, especially, well, you just mentioned earlier that you're married, right?
Yes.
And when I got married, I was pretty young and had much hair, more, more hair then.
So 2 years
So,
ago lang.
oh, 2 years ago, that's
Yeah,
very
yeah.
kind. But I knew that I needed support in order for, uh, there were a lot of threats to marriage, and so
Mhm.
we were newly married then. So we joined this group, and
Yeah.
the cell group was very important. That when couples started to exchange what they were going through, we found support there. We found the experiences we could relate to. We learned from the older ones. Now, that same concept I didn't realize was actually um, sort of foreseen by Father Bulatao.
Mhm.
Okay, if you know Father Bulatao is the
Yes.
founder of the psychology department
Mhm.
in
Mhm.
Ateneo. No? So he wrote an article about when the early 1960s, and he was saying that the small cell groups would be the instrument to change the country.
Yeah.
So, and I thought when I joined that community, there was that element of truth to that, because people, you know, they bonded in the group. They changed as a result. Of course, you can say that there was a norm that was being followed within the group, but then again, it was very instrumental in creating that kind of change among the group. And of course, your own personal needs, because depending, and then we were couples. There are also groups for singles and for youth. Um, and it supported those people who were parts of the group. Now, is it peer counseling? No, it wasn't. It was more just um, group
Support.
discussion, leading.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's more of an executive function, stop, go, something like that,
Yeah.
and meaning making, and most of all, it's a support. So you can say medyo cheesy, but it's the charity that's being given, the love and support that brother, even if I can't give you anything, no, nothing monetary, but at
Yeah.
least you have my prayers. And if you need anything that I need to do, and then I'll try to do it. And
Yeah.
that's enough for anyone who's going through a crisis. So that's how we were then. Okay.
Mm.
So right now, the program, Okay, and of course, this time backed up by all sorts of theories now that you study
Yeah.
in psychology and also group therapy will comes into the picture. Of course, we don't do group therapy,
Yes.
so we sort of just adapt it so that it need not be led by a professional. Maybe it will be guided initially by a professional, but
Mm-mm.
eventually the professional leaves and then allows the group to thrive on its own. So
Yeah.
basically, that's haba nung explanation ko sa'yo. No?
It's
You
okay.
okay lang yun.
We love
Oo,
that.
so yung ganun.
Oh.
We like the exhaustive. That's good.
Yes.
Oo, so yun yung pinanggagalingan ko when I say peer counseling. And so
Mhm.
the peer support program that we initiated is in that direction.
Mhm.
When I joined the Office of Guidance and Counseling, I tried to sort of push it, campaign it,
Yeah.
but there were no takers until there was one small group of students who volunteered. Okay. After that, there was a second group of students also from an org who wanted to do it was a 1 day thing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It was a workshop on active listening and then a little
Yes.
processing, but it was led by a
Mhm.
professional counselor from the guidance and counseling office until we went through. We had about six all throughout from 2017 to where we are right now. Six groups then until Sanggu took the cudgels. Sanggunian, they saw particularly in the Commission on Mental Health.
Mhm.
So saw it as something that will help. Okay, and
Yeah.
so they collaborated with us. So this time there were more people involved.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sanggu is such a big arm, and right now there are about 8 groups
Uh-huh.
in
Wow.
one instance. So we for the first 3 sessions we accompanied the discussion leader. Okay, so we
Mm.
were there just a company, but they can actually
Run it on their
handle
own.
the group already. So
Yeah.
it's just an exchange of what's going on. Of course, sometimes you have to have a topic for that, but the mere exchange and that you know how it is to listen, to
Yeah.
actively listen and properly, that you don't make any advices or even what do you call this judgments and
Yeah.
all those things that will negate the other person. So we try to train these discussion leaders for that kind of task.
Mm-mm.
Now eventually, and I well, we're trying to feel our way through, we pull out and
Yeah.
so leave the student to actually handle the group.
Yeah.
Now we did a parallel for the graduate students. So I have one group now of potential discussion leaders. And they're so excited because we've had about 4 sessions and they do want to facilitate the graduate students this time. And well, it's a different set of people, okay, because you're talking about part timers,
Yeah.
okay, those who have jobs or they're what? Some of them are full time also because they're on their thesis track or dissertation track and all.
Mhm.
But the exchanges were, for lack of better terms, more mature in the sense because they have a different perspective. They think about their families, they think
Yeah.
about their careers and the like. Whereas undergrad students would have a different set. So that's why it's a separate entity altogether.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are we trying to do? What we're trying to do is also answer the trend that's been happening all of these years.
okay.
Okay. Well, we know that mental health is a growing issue, and
Yes.
especially during the pandemic time.
Yes.
Oh,
Exactly. Yep.
okay.
Yes.
Now, given what we have and the rate that we're churning out mental health professionals, it's not going to match the client,
Demand.
the
Yeah.
demand.
Yeah.
Yes. So what we thought, this may be the answer, because well, according to the World Health Organization, mental health, serious mental health concerns are about 10 to 20% of population. So rarely do you get those kinds, no? But we don't want to allow the 90% or the 80% to actually graduate to move into the 10-20.
Yeah.
That would be disastrous for all of us. Okay, it's
Yeah.
like the COVID, no, burning out our health system.
Yeah.
So what we actually are trying to address is the primary care.
Yeah.
So in the primary care, it's after the medical model. The medical models kasi, the primary care is what you have probably a health office or a health clinic in the barangay
Yeah.
where you don't really have a doctor there. You someone para paramedic, something like that,
Yeah.
who would be able to handle simple medical concerns.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the secondary would be medium-sized hospital, and tertiary would be
Yeah.
the bigger hospital.
Yeah.
In our case, the primary care would be your peers.
Exactly.
So people would need people they can talk to with some sense.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
the very first thing I learned in when I joined Loyola schools is there are many students who don't know how to listen to each other. They get negated, they get all sorts of judgments, and they don't like to open up themselves anymore. So what we wanted to do is to develop that group sense that you're cared for on the primary level. At the same time, we teach those who are in the group, particularly the discussion leader, okay, to actually be able to refer to the secondary level. Now, the secondary level would be the professional. So, unlike before, they would try to probably solve the problem on their own, not understanding that this is a serious thing. It has to be referred already. And so the second level of care would be the professionals. That would be the LSOGC or whatever, there. Well, Emmaus is one of them. Another would be Boo Center. Okay. So you have CEFAM as well. Now, the tertiary, we consider the tertiary as the pharmacological side already. So you
Psychiatrist.
say a psychiatrist, or maybe even confinement. So so the referral system can be in that. So basically, that's what we're trying to. It's been almost 6 years, and very slow progress. But I hope it will pick up much more this year, given what's happening. It's really difficult because, like, I've had a number of students who have difficulty socializing, but they don't want to initiate. There's no group, there's no opportunity. Unlike when pre-pandemic times, you walk around the corridor, you walk along EDSA, the Red Brick Road, and just say hi, hello, and then the encounter will lead into a lot of exchanges. Now you have to schedule it. Okay, and if there are privacy issues and the internet is faulty, patay na. Okay, so people are hungry for that kind of interaction.
Yes.
And
It's true.
but it's still a learning process because so of course it takes time to develop a relationship in the group. We experience that, and not all the combinations when you try to discern who should belong to where and which group and that, and which facilitator should it be. Well, there's some educated ways of doing it, but still it's not perfect, and you'll sometimes get some people drop out from the group. That's something normal, I guess.
Sir Gary, is your office closely working with Sangu in terms of
we are.
the peer? Great.
CMH,
So, and then you actually have programs to sort of give training or like provide or maybe educate them about the basic skills that we need to
Yes.
have to facilitate, moderate, or guide our peer counselors, our
Yeah.
peer support group rather.
Say discussion leaders, okay? Para
Yeah.
Okay.
walang ambiguity about the counselor,
Yeah.
Yes,
professional
yes.
counselor. So, yes, the very first thing is active listening. So really teach people on how to listen properly,
Mm.
what not to do. Of course, they say that 93% of communication is nonverbal. So how to read that, okay, and watch out for that the message is composed of two things: the content and the feeling. So when you're interacting with someone in a group, you take note of what's being said, not just the content, but how the other person feels, and if there is a matching of both feeling and content. That's kind of tricky, okay?
Yeah.
So, but they saw also that it's not an easy thing to listen. Okay, so it's
Okay.
so they appreciated what we do, and when it
Yes.
was their turn to actually listen, they got scared by it also. But it's just a matter of getting used to. I think it's natural for people to be able to listen. It's just a disposition
Yeah.
that has to be instilled. So yon, so that's one. So you start out with active listening, then we went into the dynamics of the group. What is actually the function of the discussion leader? So we were emphasizing there are four functions. We use a certain framework, but of the four, we eliminated emotional what emotional picking or emotional triggering, or you don't pick on the emotions. Okay, so that's eliminated. All the other three, meaning making, executive function, meaning the stop and go. You can we allow
More
me
time
to
for other
speak this
people.
time?
Mga
Yeah.
ganyan.
Or
Yeah.
can
Okay.
we park that for the moment? And so that's the executive function. And what else? Um, Yon, meaning making and also basically caring
Yeah.
and affirming. Like for example, I went through an exam today and I got very low and sad, and people can actually affirm. Now it's kind of challenging in this virtual mode that we're in because normally when in my practice before, prior to the you can actually express yourself physically. So you can actually hug someone who's really feeling down. Now you can't do that, of course. So, or at least, um, um, a benign, you know, um,
Pat on the
pat on the back
shoulder or
or
the arm. Yeah.
wrap around the shoulder, something like that. So the person feels the comfort of a physical touch without
Yeah.
anything that may
Yeah.
compromise the situation. So
Yeah.
things like those, and of course, caring would include words of affirmation. You need not be physical about it, like thank you for sharing that. Express it in the group. Thank you for now that it affirms me because I'm going through the same thing.
Yeah.
And I feel okay now because narinig ko na hindi lang pala ako dumadaan sa ganun, pati
Yeah.
ilang sa atin, no? So,
Yeah.
you know, uh, that encourages people that you're
Yeah.
you're going through basically the same thing.
Yeah.
So yon, again, then so for the what do you call this, discussion leader, they're taught that those kinds of function and keep away from the emotions. No? Don't try to dig anything deeper or don't
Mhm.
open a can of worms that you can't
Mhm.
close.
Yeah.
The third one would be identification already and referral. So
Okay.
what are the telltale signs of real and
Of
serious
deeper mental illness.
mental health
Yep.
concerns
Okay.
that you
Yeah.
should refer to the secondary level?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So that is, something that
Mm-hmm.
that would be next in line. Now, the challenges to this thing is the schedule of individuals. That has been the problem all these years around. So
Yeah.
we
Ah,
started it out on a weekend, one whole day of a Saturday. So
yeah.
buong araw kami doon. Tapos they felt all good about it. But when I was challenging them, do you want to meet,
Regularly.
regularly,
Yeah.
Yes.
once a month? Wala na, patay na.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but
Okay.
Sangu,
Okay.
in fairness to Sangu, they were able to keep the groups that they started out with. So,
Okay.
I don't know. There's hope.
Congratulations, Sangu.
There's hope. There's hope in it. Now
Yeah.
other organizations are asking. So we're hoping that it will pick up, because the next thing we'll have to do probably is to organize it so
Yeah.
that the referral system doesn't go haywire.
Yeah. One of the things that I've been, I guess, like a staunch advocate of in terms of like mental health care, it's not just about the protection or the prevention of it, but also the access of the services. And that's, I guess, one of the things that peer support is offering. It's. But you're right. When I was learning suicide intervention in Australia, when I was still doing my masters, the model that they had was that it's threefold, diba? And it's similar to what you mentioned. There's prevention, there's intervention, and then there's postvention. So we look to yung mga professionals such as psychologists, counselors, psychotherapists, as the people who can help intervene in the crisis. Whereas peer support, I guess, is also the earlier stages maybe of a budding crisis, but also preventive, because it offers the space for people to really feel heard and to feel validated and affirmed, to basically to feel seen and heard. And like you said also, Sir Gary, diba? Parang it's about preventing that 80 to 90%, going deeper into the 10 to 20% of those with more serious mental health concerns. And so that's what I guess peer support is. It's not because one of the questions kasi that we kind of had coming into today's show was, so what's the difference between actual counseling and peer support? And that's that. So, one is there's no credential, or there's training, like maybe there's a certification training that would be pertinent to it, but there's definitely not as much like educational background and training as you would if you were a psychologist or a psychotherapist or a counselor, or even much more pa a psychiatrist. And it is never outright therapeutic in enough. It's therapeutic in the sense that it provides space for people to really come and let it out, but it's not in the same way that it's therapeutic for you to be seeing a professional. So it's possible that a person who comes to peer support will also still need professional counseling or professional therapy. Diba, Sir Gary?
Yeah. Right on the button.
Nice.
So, yun nga. So, really, we're just hoping that the peer support groups that we have, or the peer support program as initiated by Sangu, would just create that safe environment.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you're a counselor.
Sure.
Sometimes
Uh-oh.
in counseling, you don't need to come up with your techniques.
Mhm.
All you need is to listen.
Listen.
And
That's right.
because the person is able to speak out freely, and it's a safe space to speak out what's going on inside,
Exactly.
he's able to organize things in his head, and thus doesn't need anything more than just this friend who will listen non-judgmentally.
Right.
So yung mga ganon. So, and best of all is someone in, more or less in the same age bracket as you. Not like some old fogey like Mr. Faustino. So, yung mga ganon, diba? So, it's like talking to your dad No, are
Yeah,
you kidding me?
Yeah.
Peer ko,
Yeah.
daddy ko? No way.
Oo.
Ganun, di ba?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
no, just imagine your dad na ka-peer mo, no? Di.
I know, right? That's my
Well,
wish for my daughter is for me to
Oh,
be her
okay.
yeah.
peer. Diba?
Yeah, I would have to say maybe if we're having this discussion, siguro when I was in school pa, that'd be
Mm.
weird. But I guess sa age ko ngayon, age reveal na
Yeah.
tayo. Sa age ko ngayon, I think
Yeah.
there are instances na parang okay, para may peer kasi I think depende
Yeah.
rin sa values, depende sa kind of
Yeah.
support that you need
Yeah.
at the moment. Pero I guess with me siguro kasi ako we were able to navigate ourselves better than siguro ask me this like probably 20-30 years ago.
Yeah.
Ano ba 30 years ago?
Yeah.
27 years ago, ganyan.
No, but that's
And-
also, I guess, one of the
Yeah.
benefits nga talaga. That's one of the things I was thinking about. Na parang,
Yeah.
one of the reasons why peer support is so effective, it's because it's context specific. You know, you can't be like a peer support provider or facilitator. Sige, wag facility. Basta peer support provider in the Ateneo you know, as an undergrad and provide peer support to somebody who is in postgrad, diba? Or somebody who is working in an office, because the contexts are very
Yes.
different.
Mm.
The life stages, the developmental milestones, they're
Yes.
really not the same. Which is again also
Yes.
how it differs from how it differs from psychotherapy or counseling, for example. Because
Yes.
you know, for Sir Gary and I, we don't need to be in your exact context. In fact, it might be most helpful for us to not be in your context, to be able to provide, you know, psychotherapeutic interventions in your life. Whereas pag peer support, it's really two separate things talaga.
Mhm.
Oo. Lala, ang dami ko lang sinabi. So, okay lang.
It's okay. So yeah, we're expecting, yun nga, well, I'm hoping, not really expecting, but hoping that it will pick up, because we found out that first and foremost, most of the good referrals to LSOGC, the critical ones, were by students.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The second one would be by teachers, because
Okay.
of certain behaviors in class, and of course
Okay.
write-ups and the like. But the
Okay.
students, because of social media, because they're friends, they know
Yeah.
if one is going through something. Now, why shouldn't they be equipped with some theoretical background,
Right.
so that they can actually pick it the right way and listen the right way, and also point the right way. This is where to go.
Yeah.
So, yun lang.
Yeah.
Kalaban namin talaga oras eh. Yung gano'n, no? So,
Yeah.
Yeah. Sir Gary, paano po so for instance, there are students out there, maybe someone's listening now, and then who's very interested to either be involved and
Be a peer
maybe
support
become
volunteer.
yes, or
Yes.
those who might need that they feel that they need like peer support or to get into like one of these groups, like ano ba unahin natin? Si peer support leader or si member? Ano kung ano?
Member muna.
Sige.
Oo.
Sige.
Kasi
Okay, how
they go
how
through
can
that.
they get in touch with
Well, CMH with the Commission on Mental Health of Sanggu, no? So
okay, like what's the first step for them?
well, they can write Sanggu, CMH,
Okay.
and then ask that I'm interested in the groups. When is the next session going to be?
Okay.
So usually they put out some Google forms for them to sign up, and then that's organized. This is the last one we did last year, no? So
Yeah.
so naka-organize na yon. Then they tap on us to actually accompany if a discussion leader is a newbie. Usually there's a counselor that sits in until
Yeah.
such time that komportable na sila to stand on their own.
Mhm.
Now, it might depend also on the number of people coming in. So we're still working on that area, on how frequent it should be, and should we actually change groups? Can we mix batches? That's still tricky at this point. It was easy with community.
Mhm.
because in community, more or less have the same goals in mind.
Yeah.
Okay. With the students, it's not as clear, so it's more challenging with the students. So, but we do want to pursue it to its fruition. So we're
Yeah.
hoping that more people will come in. Ah,
Yeah.
so the other organizations, that's one approach, not through CMH.
Yeah.
Now, if you want it for your organization, then you can request. You go directly to the guidance office, and
Okay.
can we request that the program that's being done for Sangu be implemented in our organizations, because several organizations have actually requested that. Each organization kasi has an HR, human resource department.
Mm,
So they are trying to create programs for their constituents. Okay, so they sort of ask for programs like, yeah, active listening, and then we sort of offer, would you like to go beyond active listening and forms to small groups?
yeah.
Just make sure, don't make it functional. That's a warning that I say, because when
Yeah.
you're an organization, kasi there's always a tendency to work on business rather than
Yeah.
personal.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
di ba, it's convenient eh. You're gathering
Yeah.
already eh. Sige, pag-usapan muna natin yung project natin dito. This program,
Yeah.
that program.
Meeting muna.
Meeting muna. Nawala na yung, where are my
Yeah.
concerns? Di ba?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yan.
That time.
So, yan. So,
Okay.
these are things that we're still trying to
Yeah.
work on it. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's the big dream, no? Kasi diba, part of the mental health law now is to provide like barangay centers, or at least equip the smaller, sectors of society with community centers where they can avail of psychological services. But I think parang the bigger, it's not even just being able to access it in the communities of residents, because a lot of the time for the working majority, they spend more time at work or in their institutions or in their organizations than they do at home. So, to have, the kind of access to like peer support programs in even offices, and not just in barangays, would also be ideal. So I guess the big dream is it possible, or is it within, parang, hindi, sige, idea na lang to. How about the OGC creates this training, like, kasi diba, I mean, the skills are transferable. The
Yes.
context is probably not transferable, but active listening, being able to respond in an appropriate manner, validating all of that kind of stuff, and then the mental health training, being able to or being able to provide first aid, and being able to identify the symptoms or the red flags of a burgeoning mental health crisis. Can that become a business for the OGC, so that people who
Business.
who want to be certified or who want to start peer support groups in
Yeah.
their institutions or
Yeah.
organizations
Baka
actually do that?
baka sabihin ng admin, kumikita ako dito business. No. But
Bawal,
again,
bawal.
you
Yeah.
got it right. No?
Mm-mm.
Ateneo is going through an evaluation right now with the
Yeah.
Asian Universities Network. If you're familiar with that. Anyway, so some of the courses that they're evaluating would be the BS psychology course that we presently have, no?
Okay.
And it's been rated very high, okay?
Okay.
And we're trying to maintain that. Now, one of which the official from AUN sort of, oh no, I'm sorry, it was a doctor from I forget his first name, from ASMPH, who saw it that the small groups, because I was talking that you need an MA in order for you to actually apply for a license, okay? So master's degree is the
Yeah.
minimum. What about those who just graduated from BS Psych or AB Psych for that matter? Can't they be used? And I said, it might be the primary care. And this doctor from ASMPH said, yeah, what you mentioned, Pat, that in the health centers, these students right after it can be hired to actually run small groups, and their professional levels need not have a license.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you create the small groups that will support everyone else within the barangay. If it's a
Yeah.
barangay
We really
health
just have
center.
to
Right.
recognize these
Yes, yeah,
skills and
yeah. Oh.
students.
Oh, so meron ng trabaho yung kasi they were thinking about how do we create jobs for
Yes.
aside from just of course proceeding to an MA course
Masters, right?
of
Or, yeah.
medicine or to law. Here you have it.
Yeah.
And if you get exposed in that regard, you might actually consider going to psychiatry later on, or even
Yeah.
an MA in psychology
Yeah.
counseling side.
Kasi probably these students can also partner up with those in the public health
Yes.
parang
Yeah.
field Oo, kasi
Oh.
it is actually, I think, important for us to
And
have that there.
corporations are into it as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Oo.
Oh, so
Yeah, sure.
you can tap into that. Like if
NGOs.
HR people of organizations
Exactly.
in the Loyola schools are looking for some sort of programs, so are corporations. So
Yeah.
the BS psych graduates can actually find a job without a license.
Yeah.
No, kaya yun.
Oh my God. I wish I was an undergrad all over again. But
Oh,
also,
di ba?
no, because I endured my master's and I worked hard for that. So, okay na ako. Okay na
Balik
ako
ka daw
where I am
ulit
right
for the
now.
sake of sama ka sa Sir Gary. Anyway, Sir Gary, we hope to siguro ask for your parting message, your final message, and your reminders, I guess, for our viewers. Since mainit na yung discussion natin ang dami nilang pag-iisipan. Dami nilang i-digest.
Oh, marami. But maybe just one principle that that when you join a support group, you know that you're not alone.
Yeah.
There are other people who are there for you. And so that's what we want to impart to all the students, that they find that group for themselves, whether it's an informal one or this peer group support that we're trying to establish. And it will see you through not just in college, but in later life.
Yeah.
That's it.
Thank you. Tulad sabi ko kanina, dun sa simula pa lang. It's always a joy to have you, Sir Gary, on the show, even if we're
Thank
not
you for
really
having
talking
me.
about anything in specific, But I'm a big advocate and a big fan of the initiatives of the Office of Guidance and Counseling. So thank you for your very fierce and very compassionate direction of the office. B, do we have any announcements for MindEd or RK? Any stuff there?
I think kahapon mahaba yung script doon sa JMM, puro announcements But
go.
I guess for now, habang ko trust ko magta-type ka. Pero for now, I guess we want to plug in our podcast. So it's MindEd on demand.
Huh?
MindEd episodes on demand. Ganun yung natin. Well, it's not
okay.
that it's MindEd like
Alam ko yun yung
podcast,
channel
yeah,
name. Okay.
No. It's the nature of it. It's content. Kasi gusto na kayo mga content on demand, ganyan. That they don't have to really be with us during the show. But of course, we'd love to have you guys with us and interacting with the comment section. But kung gusto nyo balikan yung episodes, like if you want to like listen to them again, or you miss an episode and you just want like an audio only, they are available on Spotify actually and other podcast
We're on
streaming
Spotify? Oh my
platforms.
God.
Dude, we are.
We are?
Yes. Yes.
Oh my God. Okay.
We are.
Joke
But yeah,
lang. Mamaya
so yeah, we're there, and and then I think other shows then ng radyo-katipunan nandun din. So just I think we're gonna have like announcements, and so maybe that one. It's powered by Anchor, and okay, wala na tayo masyado announcements. Patrick, kami
Teka,
pa-plug
hinahanap
ka.
ko sa Spotify. Wala eh. Wala naman.
Hanapin natin. Teka, hanapin natin.
Hanapin
Pero
natin.
magpaano
Sige,
muna
sige,
tayo.
Okay. Anyway, mamaya na yun.
Oo.
No, again, sorry guys. Thank you.
Sure.
Anything? Speaking of comments, sorry. Thank you for everybody who listened in today and commented and engaged in our show. Kirk, we miss you. Thank you for being here today. Marvin Christian Cruz, hello. Miss Fe Josefa G. Nava, thanks for listening in. Miss Luz Viminda Vicedo, welcome. Miss Jen, I miss you so much. We miss you so much. Tagal na natin hindi nagkikita lahat-lahat.
True.
This has been MindEd, your weekly slice of mental health tips and tidbits. Thank you, Sir Gary, for being with us.
Thank you, Sir
again.
Thank
Gary.
you also. Thank you
Yeah.
very much.
My name is Pat.
Right. And this is B, still a letter. We'll see you next week.
Peace. Bye. Spirit finger.
Bye.
Spirit fingers. Okay.
Bagay na. See you. So,
Yes. See us out. Yes.
Hey.
Bye.
Let us understand mental health and explore how we can take care of our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. Welcome to your weekly slice of mental health tips and tidbits with Pat and B, here on MindEd.
Sa'yo sumisilong kapag ang puso ko